Hey, so as of this taping, where are you guys at? Are you guys like celebrating the Cavs loss? Are you like hashtag the Cavs are over party? Or are you like, damn, I wanted to see it get to like 20 games? Like, what are the, can we do a vibe check on the Cavs loss to the Celtics?
Definitely wanted 20.
Yeah.
Why not? I wanted 82 and
Right.
0 just to see it happen. Yeah, I'm also, I don't like the Celtics, so double L. But it was a close game, and I think the Cavs showed enough to be like, they can compete with them. Especially given that the first half of the game, they were on the we're not going to miss a three mode.
Have you ever gone with a friend to like a sporting event where you're a really big fan of the team and your other friend maybe isn't a giant fan of the team, so they're just kind of there as a neutral party? So last night, I'm watching the game. Darius Garland is throwing up bricks. I'm not a massive Cleveland fan, but I am a very big Darius Garland fan. He's like 0 of 6 from 3. And I get a text from Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, just saying, man, this Darius Garland guy, really tough night to be a Darius Garland fan, huh? And I'm like, it filled me with a visceral rage that just the only equivalent is like your buddy when you go to a sporting event that they're not a fan of the team and they're like, man, they're getting destroyed, aren't they? It's like, why did I bring you? It's like, why did I give Jacob my number?
That's nice that he texts you about basketball. Anytime this guy texts me, it's just like vaccine distrust. He's like, gene therapy. He's like, I'm not getting a vaccine. I'd love to talk to Jacob about basketball. So this is not the hill that I want to die on. I've been thinking about this all day. I was like, do I say this or do I not say it? I don't think I'm not saying this. I'm just telling you guys something that I almost said. Okay. So at some point in that game, Jason Tatum has a hard foul. That's what they're calling it. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? A hard foul on Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's down for a couple seconds, and then he gets up. He's bleeding from his mouth.
I thought they'd call a flagrant on it, to be honest.
Did they? What did they end up ruling?
I don't think so. I think it was just a common foul.
Because I think that's the take. Because I'm like, yeah, like it was kind of like bang, bang, but like there was nothing flagrant about it. I was like, they slow it down. I'm like, it didn't even look like it was that crazy. How is he bleeding from that? So what's the take here? What am I not saying? That it was a hard foul just because you were bleeding. I don't like this take. Leave this in the show, but I don't like this take, and I'm going to talk about something else. Rudy, go ahead, Jacob.
I think if you have a mouthful of blood, you can get 2 free throws and possession. I think that's a fair trade-off.
That's a good rule. Okay, that's a good rule. I like that. Rudy, do we have anything planned for Embiid? Are we going to speed past that? I know Jacob put a video out about it.
Yeah, I think we can just kind of gather the panel's thoughts on it. We don't have to go super in depth. It's always, kind of loose and open how we open the show.
Okay, Kyle Lowry calls a team meeting because the Sixers lose like 9 of 10. They're 2 and 11 on the season. And he's like, we got to figure this out. And Tyrese Maxey is like, Joel Embiid, you're late for everything, and you need to stop, and you need to hold yourself accountable. And I just want to give the Philadelphia 76ers credit because this is the first time in I don't know how long that something truly relatable has happened as just an average guy in the NBA. Because we all have that guy in our friend group where it's like, dude, your vibes are just fucking bad and you need to get it together or we're not going to be friends with you anymore. And that's basically what the Sixers did here. So hell yeah, good for them. And then I'm just kind of like, wait a minute. So between this and the whole locker room thing, shoving a journalist, Joel Embiid almost killing a journalist. Oh my God. Are we in like an 0-2 count with Joel Embiid being on the Sixers anymore? Like where are we at in terms of dominoes falling and then the band breaks up and he goes somewhere else? Because this is tough. And then also one last thing, shout out to the Detroit Pistons signing Tobias Harris because he was apparently the guy holding this whole thing together. The Pistons, by the way, have been awesome. Because we have the best glue guy in the NBA now, and the Sixers don't. So that's the take.
It's one of those things where, like, you want to give the benefit of the doubt to, like, the athlete in this situation, and you want to avoid, like, trying to, like, make a ton of assumptions. But I'm kind of getting to the point now where, like, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Like, I'm not saying, like, Joel Embiid's a bad team, but, like, we've had these discussions. Like, it's... Let me rephrase.
Say it.
That sounded like comical. I don't think Joel Embiid is a bad teammate, but like we've seen players not take their health seriously and not take like certain important things seriously. And it's one thing for like Skip Bayless to be on First Take being like, does Joel Embiid actually care about basketball? Is Joel Embiid not taking the game seriously? Did he get his money and then stop caring? Then it's another thing for teammates to be like, hey, man, I would prefer if you showed up on time to practices. I would prefer if you took your health seriously. You know, when it's when it's your teammates that start saying that stuff. And the other thing that I want, the other qualifier that I want to give here is the tone of everything that has been said. We don't know. We're reading it through like a secondhand lens.
When the call is coming from inside the house, Alex, that's what you're trying to say. It's one thing when it's coming from a pundit like a Skip Bayless, but when it's coming from somebody, again, from inside the house, then there's actual merit to it, and we can kind of start to look at it through a different, not like conjecture lens, but more of an objective lens.
There was specific wording in the article that was posted where the quote from the anonymous team source said Joel Embiid had to address the elephant in the room. And that was the quote. That was the phrasing that was used. Elephant in the room. Somebody went back and looked at Nick Nurse quotes from when he was with the Raptors. And he's a pretty big fan of using the phrase elephant in the room. So now I don't know if it's a joke or like 50% joke, 50% there might be some merit to this, but like you say the call is coming from inside the house. What if it was Nick Nurse that put this story out there? How crazy would that be?
I do think it's a common enough expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I
just found it, I thought it was
right.
fun. It was a funny conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I respect that level of dedication to dig that shit up, because who the fuck has time for that? What I want to add to this whole thing is like, I think this type of story is a thing that happens all the fucking time to varying degrees. And obviously Philly is a more extreme example given how disastrous the start to their season has been. But to me, the biggest takeaway I had from this was who's leaking this shit? Who's letting this get out of the house? Because for the most part, I don't think this had to be a big story, but someone in there was like, nah, we can't let this just stay here. I need to make sure that Joel Embiid is being actively criticized for an in-house conversation. So, like, first of all, the thing that stands out to me is who the hell is the rat?
My big theory is that it's Tyrese Maxey, because the article from Shams was just so pro Tyrese Maxey. There was no, like, it was feeling like,
how are you going to be mean to Tyrese Maxey? That guy is a walking
but it was
sunflowers and rainbows.
It was a situation where it seemed like very likely that you could paint Tyrese Maxey in a negative light for being the aggressor in this situation of sorts, you know, to be the one to start the confrontation, to call out the superstar player and say stop being late.
Knock him for that.
Yeah, because he's doing the right
I don't
thing.
Think it would
but
be easy to paint him that way at all.
Right.
I don't know.
I think it would be actively difficult to paint him that way, considering Joel Embiid is such a polarizing figure, and B, Tyrese Maxey is already such a likable player.
Joel Embiid's PR is in the dirt right now. He was already like, I bet you if there was a comment that said, Tyrese Maxey called Joel Embiid a fat son of a bitch, said get off your ass and start hooping, and everyone on Twitter would be like, yes, go Tyrese Maxey. I don't think there was any shielding necessary for Tyrese. I really don't think it was him. I think it was probably somebody on the coaching staff. I saw someone on Twitter say, I think it was Eric Gordon. I don't know, he just looks like he would do that.
Who's a bigger snitch, Eric Gordon or D'Angelo Russell?
The one who we have proof has done it, probably.
Eric Gordon has been a fly on the wall for a lot of controversial teams, so I would imagine it's probably not him, because he could have spilled the beans on a lot of drama, I'm sure.
Or maybe those teams were controversial because he kept telling everybody about it.
I don't think
chicken or egg.
What was who? I guess he's been on the Suns. He's been on the Rockets. I've fever dreaming that he was on the Nets at one point when Kyrie and
Clippers drafted by the Hornets.
Definitely fever dreamed that Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's probably seen some stuff.
I mean, I think he was still there. when the AD drama was going down in New Orleans. He might have been gone the year before that. It could be mistaken.
No, yeah, he was.
Yeah. So.
2015, 2016.
Eric Gordon, we're looking at you sideways.
Y'all, I'm not. I think it is way more likely that like also agents are at play here too, right? That's where Shams gets a lot of his shit.
The odds are it's someone whose name we don't even know.
Who gains from this? That's what we have to be asking. Who gains the most from this story coming out?
Andre Drummond.
Who gains the most?
Starting center minutes.
There you go, Jacob. You're on the board. That one was funny.
Andre Drummond even snitched on himself for purposely missing shots to get his rebound numbers up on a
still
podcast.
Can't believe
so
he said that
if
shit.
he's willing to snitch on himself, surely he's willing to snitch on Tyrese Maxey
and
for calling Joel Embiid tardy.
As Nick loves to point out, Embiid and Drummond had the fakest beef ever. What if this is, I can't beat him on the court. I'm going to join his team and sabotage him.
I will destroy him narratively.
Right.
Well, we're just gonna. There it is. We're just gonna end it there. Andre Drummond is the leak here. He's the reason that this got out. I love it.
So that's enough about the Eastern Conference. We covered that last week. Let's talk about the West. This is what stands out, part 2. This time it's the Western Conference. So, fellas, one at a time in long form, pure improvisation. I gave you no time to prepare. I need you all to speak for minimum 10 minutes on your favorite thing that stands out in the Western Conference. No, I'm lying. Of course,
10
you don't
minutes
have to do
is
that.
a little extreme.
Right, no, that would be a formal debate club. At the end of the show, I would just decide which one of you wins and fucking hit end.
All right, I want to go first.
So what stands out to you in the Western Conference? Jacob?
Houston. Holy shit, the Rockets are actually pretty fucking good. And they're good in such a profoundly weird way. Obviously, a thing that I have been harping on time and time again when talking about the Rockets going into the season was how, it was very unclear what the hierarchy would actually look like. And it still has been that case thus far. And, maybe there will be a shift of it in the near future. However, they're still winning in spite of that because they ultimately do have a shitload of depth and a lot of good players. And having Amen Thompson and Tari Eason coming off of your bench is, ridiculous. They have had a combined defense, when they're on the floor together, they are locking up teams beyond belief. Amen Thompson is a super unique offensive player just because of the fact that he can't shoot the ball worth a lick. So they end up utilizing him in screen action and stuff like that all the time, which is super fascinating. I think Tari Eason is more or less just your traditional type of forward in terms of how he scores the ball. But he has been pretty damn good. I don't remember what his... I know that he had a stretch of 18 points per game. Recently, him and Amen have been apparently labeled as untouchable by the Houston Rockets front office, which I think is an interesting choice to declare them untouchable before declaring them starters. And what's weird is they have a lot of starters struggling right now. Fred VanVleet, 31% from 3, 40% from the field. Alperen Şengün is improving over time, but he started the season playing fucking awful. Jalen Green, sub 40% from the field, 33% from 3. And Jabari Smith, sub 30% from 3. So a bunch of dudes are struggling, and then Amen and Tari Eason check into the game, and I think Jokic Star on Twitter described it as a rock fight, and that is very much how it feels. You're still not even getting big Reed Shepherd minutes yet, because that opportunity hasn't been there. Not a lot of Cam Whitmore, because I think Noah in the chat was talking the other day about Cam Whitmore's the most negative playmaker he's ever put his own two eyes on. I'm trying to find their on-off stuff real quick because, in terms of box plus minus, Tari Eason is number 3 and Amen Thompson is number 5 with 2 different people who are not real players in that. So really, they're 2 and 3 in plus minus on this team after their best player, Şengün. So those 2 have stood out to me a lot. And Houston's winning games.
I'm glad you brought up that Şengün's their best player because a lot of people still think it's Jalen Green. And I don't think they do.
I don't think a lot of people think that at this point. Not at this point.
Yeah, maybe not at this point because he has been playing really poorly this last couple of weeks compared to his first couple of weeks, especially. I mean, this guy is the epitome of streaky.
Yeah, I think Jalen Green is going to be a sixth man, like microwave off the bench player. I think that's what he's built for, and we have just given him too much credit. And this is exactly
You're calling him Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford, huh?
right. Yes. Yeah, that's what I am.
If
doing.
Jalen Green was J.R. Smith, things would be better. Apparently, he's a sub 40% from the field right now, shooting 39 from the field.
Tell me
32
right
from
now that Jalen Green is not just J.R. Smith being asked to be a star player.
I think he's at least got a little bit of a better handle on the ball than J.R. did, but
Sure.
that's about where that stops.
Better separator. But we can get into the minutia at a different time.
He's almost 23, so there's still plenty of time for him to develop. Maybe it's not with the Rockets, though. They do need to make a trade. Alex, what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Jalen Green thing is like, yeah, we do this every year. He'll play well the last 25 games. I did it last year. I made a whole video about it. So
I don't think we're doing it again. I don't think it's going to happen again.
Okay.
Because I think
Well,
Houston's
It's happened
too
3
good.
years in a row.
I know.
It's literally happened every year of his
No,
career.
look, is there
Yeah.
going to be some dumb motherfuckers proposing the same thing? Absolutely.
Me.
However,
It's going to be me.
good job. The amount of time, as time goes on, less and less people are going to be in that camp. And I think, especially now that Houston is playing winning basketball, so there is a direct contrast of what he's doing versus what everybody else is doing. Rather than like, if you're just a dog shit team, it's harder to discern if Jalen Green is actually an impactful player or not. But when he checks into the game and the team that is currently the fourth in the team in the Western Conference is suddenly playing bad, it's like, maybe Jalen Green kind of sucks.
Well, it's not about like being in the camp that like he's a March merchant. Like there's empirical data to suggest that in the last 20 games of the season, he's better. Like he's actually really, really good in the last 20 games. It's not.
I don't know
about,
if he's going to have that same opportunity in March. Why would he? Why would I don't think he is even going to be starting by March at this point.
Whoa,
Where's he gonna be?
there's your hot take for the podcast. That's a big one.
I think it would be sinful if Tari and Amin were not starting. From a pure like defensive utility standpoint, I would maybe go with Jalen Green there. Jabari Smith. Fred VanVleet is solid, but also one of the most frustrating players in the league to watch. He is probably their best playmaker, so I could understand continuing to start him. But like, it would not shock me at all if Jalen Green had a rather reduced role on this team, especially as they continue to win and he continues to play poorly.
Okay, I just have a question because we were talking about Jalen Green, but then you said Amen and Tari should be starting.
Mm-hmm.
So Jalen Green not starting, yeah, I can get with that. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that means you're taking out either Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, obviously not Şengün, or Jabari Smith Jr. from the starting lineup. So who are you taking out of the starting lineup?
Probably Jabari right now. Maybe it depends if Dylan continues to hit his threes. Last year, he started the season hitting his threes, and then he stopped. But I think, yeah, take your pick on any of them. I'm cool with that. And as of right now, I think Jalen Green has been their worst starter because at least Jabari Smith is a positive defender, even if his shot's not going in right now.
Yeah, he's still well above 50% inside the arc. And
yeah.
So the shooting, you mentioned the shooting. Jabari Smith Jr. is shooting 29% from three so far. The Rockets as a whole are shooting 32% from three. But I talked about this on the Media Pass. If you want my full thoughts, you can go check that out after this episode. Shameless plug. Let's look at some wide open shooting numbers. So far this season, the Houston Rockets are shooting wide open threes at a 34.9% clip. Not very good. The league average is much higher than that. That's fourth lowest in the NBA. Now, what are their opponents shooting on wide open threes against them? Funny you ask, I have that number right here. Their opponents are shooting 42% on wide open threes against them, which is really good. Well above league average. As a matter of fact, it's so good that it's the fourth highest rate in the entire league. This is called shooting luck. Right now, the Rockets are, 10-5? And they have, by all measures, the fourth worst shooting luck in the entire league, both offensively and defensively. So why is that important? You've got guys like Jabari Smith Jr., he's not hitting his threes. Fred VanVleet, 31% from three. Jalen Green even, 32.8% from three. The whole team up and down the roster, underwhelming three-point shooting numbers. Do I think this team is an elite three-point shooting team? Absolutely not. Do I think this team is better than what their shooting numbers currently indicate? Yes, which is scary because they're 10-5 and they're not making their open threes, and their opponents are making their open threes at a ridiculous clip against them. So they're probably only going to get better.
Rudy, talk to me for a second.
Okay.
These guys over here talking about shooting luck. Shooting luck. That's the new term on the street. Never heard that one before. Shooting luck.
I didn't say a word.
I've been saying that for years.
You nodded, Jacob. You went, when he said it. That counts as an endorsement. So, Rudy, what do you think? Is that real, or is it just, did the shot go in? Oh, it didn't go in? You fucking stink. Because that's kind of where I'm at. Talk to me, Rudy.
I believe in that sort of thing at like a large data sample size, like any good scientific mind, I guess. I'm from the 21st century. I get that if you see someone put up 100,000 shots, or a team, a league, whatever, and the defensive variables all kind of even out, the luck starts to wash away at that point, and so I believe in it in that sense. But I think it's more fun as trying not to be overly critically thinky about sports and the way I consume it, to just be like, yeah, if the shot doesn't go in, ball don't lie, defense matters. Someone could have said at the right time and it made him miss. Like luck schmuck. It's ball don't lie. Everything happens for a reason or something. I don't know.
That was exactly what I was looking for. Thank you, Rudy. Alex, go ahead. What's your counterpoint?
Well, my counterpoint is we're talking about how good they are.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, they should be bad. So
that sounds good to me. What about you, Rudy?
Let them be bad.
If ball doesn't lie, then it might be telling a half truth right now.
Maybe I need to reevaluate my stance on ball.
No, you're good. You're good.
I don't even understand where you're coming from, because in a modern NBA setting, every NBA team is going to give up a good amount of open threes. Now, it's not black and white to where it's just like, yeah, every single team is giving up X amount of open catch and shoot threes a game, but it mostly probably evens out to a similar degree. I'm sure Alex could show me the stats, maybe what the league average open threes per game is. But like at that point, there is defensive strategy in who you choose to leave open. But every team is going to be susceptible to shooting luck occasionally. Like the opening night game of Celtics versus Knicks, like the Knicks shot like over 50% from the field. Like they had a good game. They just got dicked down because guess what? They're going to hit every fucking open three you give them. And it's especially important to contextualize that for the start of the season. It evens out over time to where, the difference between 30th in open three-point percentage and first is probably not going to be that dramatic. But as of right now, the differences are fairly dramatic. And if they're good on the negative end, imagine how good they would be on the positive end of that spectrum, or even just a neutral one.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I actually don't know who's arguing what anymore. So, Alex, just to get this thing back on the road, do you have the volume for what the Rockets are shooting, like how many open threes they are versus how many they're letting up? Because I didn't want to cut you off, but that's what I wanted to know.
They're attempting, let's see, 18 and
This
a
is
half.
the Rockets.
Yes, this is the Rockets. They're attempting 18 and a half wide open threes a night, which is around average. Actually, it's probably
That's a lot.
Slightly above average. So for context, the most open threes allowed per game is Jacob, your Chicago Bulls.
Let's
with
go.
28.3 a night. Teams are shooting a scorching 38.6% on those. And the lowest allowed, or the lowest taken, excuse me, these are taken, not allowed. So the Bulls are getting a lot of open threes. That's a good thing.
Look at their percentage. It's not. They're getting that many open threes, and they're not fucking going in.
No, they're hitting them at 38.6%. Right.
Oh.
That's pretty good.
This is the problem with early season
they're
stats,
so
man.
used to the open looks that the contested ones are going in at such a low rate, it drags down their overall percentage.
So
We're getting
Jacob
off
goes
the
from Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead. Jacob goes,
No.
oh, yeah, they stink. Obviously, they stink. And Alex is like, no, it's actually a good percentage. You're like, oh, well, that's just early shooting variance. Which one is it, Jacob?
Both. They also
Okay.
stink.
Alex, go
All
ahead.
half truth.
Well, so what you said earlier is true, that this all typically, like, contested shot numbers, like, those are kind of differentiators between teams. But every team is going to level out to a similar. Obviously, some teams will just be better at shooting threes than the Warriors are going to be better at shooting threes because they got freaking Steph Curry and Buddy Hield. And then there's teams
The
like the
Splash
Rockets
Brothers.
who will probably be on the lower end of that spectrum, but the gap between the worst and the best is going to narrow pretty tightly. So, anyways, back to the opponent volume. Like I said, they're allowing the fewest wide open threes per game, with 16.5, which is really good. So not only is there a lot of opponent shooting luck going against them right now, 42.3% clip, they're allowing the fewest. So once that efficiency drops a little bit, the impact of whatever efficiency their opponents are shooting is going to be even less because they're not allowing very many. So that's my spiel on their shooting.
All right, let's move on from the Rockets. We've been on
Yeah.
them for a minute.
This segment desperately needs a data visualization. So, Alex, I imagine you want to talk at least a little bit about how your Thunder lost to a Wemby-less Spurs on national TV last night. I missed
don't
it
wanna
because
talk
I'm a
about
big
that.
boy and I went to bed on time. But I assume you stayed up late to I don't know, I guess it was enjoyable at some point, right?
No,
I didn't text you about that.
No, thank goodness. That would have really sent me off the rails. I would have just blocked your number. No, I would never do that. No, the game pissed me off a lot because at the end of the game, like, started hitting timely shots, but, you know, it was just like too little too late. OKC shot 30% from three. And I hate that, like, this is kind of what you're doing in today's NBA is like who shot better from three, but it's kind of what it is. I mean, OKC did a lot of good stuff, but props to Keldon Johnson. I've been on the Keldon Johnson train for a long time. I'm like, he's a good player. I promise, guys. Please believe me. And last night is a game I can point out and be like, see that? He had 22 points, 7 of 15 from the field, 6 of 12 from three, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Chris Paul did the thing where he's like, yeah, I'm 50, but I still have just like institutional
I kinda
knowledge
wanted
that
to
allows
ask,
me to be really, really good.
What do you, as a Thunder fan, how did you feel about that? I don't know how you really feel about Chris Paul from that 1 year.
I'll put it this way. Chris Paul is a player for some people that like they have a lot of like nostalgia and like a very soft spot in their heart for Chris Paul. I don't have that. I enjoyed having him on OKC for 1 year. And since then, I'm like, cool. It's like, I'm trying to think of an example. You know, there's just some players that like,
It was like
I
a
don't
fling.
care that they played for my team. Like, I
It
just
was a
don't.
fling. It wasn't a real relationship.
What was it? A
I also
necessary
just don't
evil?
really like Chris Paul. I think Chris Paul is one of the greatest point guards of all time. I don't like
situationship.
Chris Paul.
Perhaps.
Chris Paul, necessary evil to create modern Shea Gilgeous-Alexander? Yes or no?
Yeah,
I think that's giving him
I mean, for sure.
maybe too much credit, but I feel like
You're telling me like using the mentor stuff in real life doesn't work like it does in 2K?
I don't know. There's a whole deep dive for us to do one day about how like credit is distributed for players and shit all the time, but I'm not going to get into it now.
I
Hell
mean,
no.
to be fair, it's something that like the organization and the players literally talked
Yeah,
about
for sure.
and gave
Yeah.
credence to. Like, it's not
Right.
something that was just made up. Like,
I
you know how
think
they
some
do that with like
people-
LeBron's leadership.
Yeah.
Like, this was LeBron's leadership.
I think some people just throw that around in a way that like is almost like discrediting, where it's like, yeah, SGA wouldn't have had shit if he didn't have Chris Paul mentoring him. That's where it gets really annoying.
So I reckon this is the first time the Thunder have lost consecutive games, unless their 2 other losses also came consecutively. But I'm not looking at the
But
schedule
they
right
didn't
now.
have a big man.
But that hasn't mattered. They've had one of the best defenses in the league despite playing 5-guard lineups all night. It's like a phenomenon in the current NBA right now. It's honestly an under-discussed storyline overall. If I had to say one thing that stands out about the West right now, it's that the Thunder still managed to be an absolutely elite defense without any big men, which Jacob, I think, perhaps raises an eyebrow at your philosophy that big men matter infinitely more than perimeter defenders. Mr. A DPOY should never, ever, ever be a perimeter player. Should always be a center. A team with no center is the best team in the NBA.
I didn't say never, ever. I said there are some exceptions for forwards. I just don't think guards should ever win DPOY because I don't think a guard has ever been the best defender in the NBA.
Let's rewind the tape a little bit. Rudy, you said the best team in the NBA doesn't have a center. Who do you think the best team in the NBA is?
Yeah, I said that. If I said the best team, I didn't mean it, but I said the best defense in the NBA.
I don't think they've been the best.
Okay.
Have they been the best defense in those games?
I mean, the last I checked,
I just don't know.
They held opponents to the lowest points per game. I don't know about the defensive rating. I can go to.
They do have the
Rudy wouldn't lie.
I didn't know that.
Fucking chill on Rudy. Rudy wouldn't lie about this. All right.
Yeah, well, if I ever lie, it's for a bit.
His original comment. But my fault, OG.
No, I appreciate you, fam.
I would say a couple game stretch in a regular season when you have literally the most comically talented guards, like J-Dub is looking like he could maybe be all defense caliber right now. Alex Caruso obviously is. Lou Dort is in that tier. SGA is kind of in that tier pretty much. So, like, yeah, it's a fucking crazy. He's just not quite as good defensively as them. Don't give me that little smirk, Alex.
Defensive rating, first in the NBA. Points per game, opponent points per game, of course, second in the NBA. Pace, 6th overall.
Look, if you can have 5 Alex Carusos, your defense is going to be pretty good. But I think for the most part, what I say still rings true.
Do we think that anyone on Oklahoma City deserves a shout out for Defensive Player of the Year? I mean, Lou Dort is that reputationally great defender who kind of specializes in that, but I don't even know if he's the best defender on this team or not. Healthy.
Chet was probably the front runner off of 7 games or however many he played before he got hurt.
Yeah,
what,
Hipless now been
Shrek?
15.
Hipless Shrek.
Hipless Shrek.
Where did the Shrek come from?
What about him is Shrek like?
Word vomited. Was like, whatever comes out, hopefully it makes them laugh. And that's what came out.
I'm for it.
You're more tapped into the pulse than I am on these things. So
NBA Circle Jerk is not calling Chet Holmgren hipless Shrek. That was just I domed that one. Yeah, I domed that one.
Yeah. So what 6'6" or below player deserves the shout out for DPOY, or is it such a communal effort? Oh yeah, he was campaigning for that, but I was
he's not
to the
just
Thunder.
campaigning for it. He would be the DPOY right now if the season ended, probably.
Let's talk about the Warriors because it's about that time.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
he absolutely would be. And Draymond is 6'6", so there you go. There's the answer to your question.
Did
nobody
you say
on
under
the Thunder.
6'6"?
6'6" or under.
Nobody
6'6"
on the
under, gotcha.
Thunder is a DPOY candidate besides for Chet. So I don't even know why we're prompted that question.
Well, Jacob,
because they're the best defense in the NBA. They're succeeding.
Okay, but the best defense in the NBA, if it's a conglomerate, if it's a group of people, that defense does not give you a DPOY more often than not. I mean, obviously, fucking Rudy Gobert just got it in that exact situation, but that's not always the case. Very rarely do I think it's the case. Usually it's like, hey, this guy's carrying our defense. He's fucking that's the point I'm getting at.
No, I just wanted to make sure that was the stance because I was trying to get you there, but you just never quite arrived until now.
There's
nothing wrong with coming
late. Defender individually impactful enough besides for Chet on that team to win DPOY.
Shout out to J-Dub. The Warriors, surprise of the Western Conference this season so far, perhaps? Dare I say? I mean, everyone counted them out, thought they'd be a 10th seed, but currently they're one of the only teams in the NBA with double-digit wins. Any thoughts on the Dubs?
It's funny that they keep doing this, that they just keep dying and then reviving themselves.
Was Clay holding them back?
Oh, people are asking.
Oh my gosh.
I think the big thing is the team in general has just improved at shot creation across the board, but Buddy Hield is like all of the positive stuff with Klay Thompson with none of the baggage. is playing less minutes because who gives a shit? We don't have to play you that much. Your buddy healed. Not taking a bunch of dumb mid-range shots, not getting mad that he's not getting enough touches, so just forcing the shot every time he touches the ball. It's just, hey, this guy's a fucking sniper, and he's going to go out there and he's going to be a sniper possession after possession. And that, in many ways, has essentially replaced the production of Klay Thompson, more or less. And then you have a bunch of other people stepping up. Andrew Wiggins looking like old Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, I don't even know where I was going with this. But yes, Klay being gone and it just being an actual basketball team instead of Steph Curry plus one of the worst second options in the league. It's a massive improvement.
So the answer is yes, Klay was holding them back.
Yes.
Boom. So I'm going to ask Alex and Jacob something that I'm never going to fucking ask this again. So, like, really get in your bag, okay? Will you guys explain to me analytically what makes Draymond Green the defensive player of the year right now?
You take this one, Alex, if you want.
Wait, say that again. Sorry,
I said analytically.
What was the question?
That's got to be you.
As opposed to critically or like numbers wise?
Well, Jacob, you do this shit all the time, so I don't know. I'm saying right now, like actually X's and O's basketball, talk to me. Why is Draymond Green the player of the year right now?
Defense.
I don't feel comfortable speaking on that because I haven't studied a ton of Warriors games. I've pretty passively watched them so far, so I don't.
I gave you guys one shot.
I don't want to say something stupid.
I'll do it. I took it as analytically. I don't actually really look at analytics like that.
No, I'm not asking literally
analytics
ones and zeros.
Doesn't necessarily mean numbers.
Got you. Okay. Well, he's Draymond Green, and they're the best defense in the league, and he looks like the same defender that he more or less has been in his prime. Seems like he's as engaged on that end as we've seen him in years, and it's been infectious among the rest of the team. I also don't think there's any other defense in the league that's like more clearly anchored by one guy that's one of the best defenses in the NBA. Not to mention, I do think DPOY, there's a, what's new, what's the new vibe of the week of this season, the Warriors being back, that's going to be one of the more prevalent stories. So like, hey, Draymond has that boost going for him. Now, do I think he's going to win it by the end of the year? No, I think Wemby's probably going to win it, which is what everyone thinks. But yeah, like I said, if I had to pick someone right now, it's Draymond.
I my appetite is still there for wondering what the fuck is going on with him. Rudy, last week when we were going to try to do both conferences, that one of the teams that I wrote down for like what's going on with them, how are they this good, was the Warriors. That was going to be my pick. Now the truth is that I also don't really understand why they're so good. And what you said at the beginning of people writing them off and being like, well, whatever, they're an afterthought this year, like whatever. It's too bad for Steph that the twilight years of his career are going to be spent on a team that stinks. Mainly because I looked at like Kyle Anderson and I was like, nope. If that's your dude and like Air Pajemski is your guy and like everybody seems to really like Pajemski, I guess I'm sort of the odd man out on that one. Shout out to Jubilee. But yeah, I still don't really get why the Warriors are so good. Was it who's the really big YouTuber who gets like millions of views that isn't Ken? Is it Jimmy High Roller? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Probably.
So he put out a video that keeps getting recommended to me. I'm not going to watch it, but the thumbnail is of Steph, and the title is like, they're doing it again, or like, they're breaking the NBA again. It's got like 2 million views, and I kind of want to watch it just so I can have it explained to me why the Warriors are actually so good. But I think the way that I look at it is actually good for the league if the Warriors are going to be good, just because Steph is there. And Jacob, in one of your recent Hot Takes videos, somebody talked about like, hey, isn't it kind of weird that the NBA is still clinging to like the LeBrons and KDs and Stephs of the world as like they're marketable guys, but like obviously they're going to do that. The way that they worded it was such, what I'm talking about. And if that's going to be the case, well, the Lakers have been good to start the year. I don't know if we're going to get to them, so I don't want to say anything yet, but like they've been kind of like oh wow, what if they're actually good? I think they're like 10-4 right now or something as of this taping. Okay, so LeBron is still in the mix. That's good for the league. And then the Warriors are 10-3. Okay, so like that's good for the league. And I just think it's fun that they don't suck. That's it. That's my take. I'm happy that they don't suck because I don't like watching Steph not compete for compete in meaningful games.
Watching Warriors games last year and like Lakers games the past couple of years, it feels like this is probably a poor metaphor because I don't have a great relationship with my grandparents. Most of them are in the dirt, but it's like visiting a grandparent at like a old people home. It's like, it's nice to see you, but this is a depressing environment all around me. That's it, like, I want to see Steph and LeBron, but god damn does it suck the soul out of me to watch the rest of the team.
That's the worst thing about the Warriors doing so well, is that coming into the season we kind of expected them to flirt with some trade rumors here and there, maybe shake things up, whether it be, Jonathan Kuminga or Stephen Curry, anywhere in between. But now they're doing so good, my dreams of seeing Stephen Curry in a Lakers jersey are thwarted. I don't think it's going to happen,
Yeah.
The teams are too good.
Yeah.
That's my hot take 13 games into the NBA season, is that Steph Curry is going to retire a Warrior just because apparently they're going to keep they're going to keep being good no matter what.
So the thing that I would highlight as to like why they have gotten better, obviously the defense has been dramatically different, but the main thing offensively is that they're just getting decent and consistent scoring production out of a lot of different players. So per 36 is a flawed stat, but just to give you an idea of like what kind of production they're doing in any given possession, last year 5 like actual real players, not just a random dude who popped off one game, average 17 or more per 36. That's 5. This year it's 8 players doing that. So there's just dudes scoring the ball well. Andrew Wiggins is better. Trace Jackson-Davis is scoring extremely efficiently in limited minutes. Moses Moody has been really good still. Is he even still cracking 20 minutes per game? No, he's still at fucking 16, even though he's shooting 45% from 3. I don't know if a coach has ever had more disdain for a role player in my entire time covering this sport. Jonathan Kuminga is, also scoring the ball pretty well. He still has his moments where he's an awkward fit, and then Buddy Hield is there. So there's just a bunch of dudes scoring who aren't Stephen Curry.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Trust tree.
Okay.
Has anyone ever staged an intervention on your behalf?
No.
Hasn't
For
happened.
what? There's a couple of different things it could be for.
I have heard you preface per 36 is a flawed stat. Every single time you bring up per 36, at least 100.
This is what happens.
Hold on.
Okay.
And so I'm just wondering, if it's such a make-believe Disney-ass stat, why don't we find something else for you to help quantify the point that you're trying to make? Because you always say it. It's a flawed stat. It doesn't make any sense. It's not a real stat. It's not a real stat. It's a fake news stat. But I'm still gonna read it to you. What's something else that we could do instead?
Bling bling.
What's up?
I'm your lawyer right now.
Okay, you got this. Okay.
Representing Jacob, I will say, it's just about the minutes. It's just about the minutes. It's like you can't trust that a guy is literally going to extrapolate his 24-minute performance average into a 36-minute average, which is why I personally believe, and I'm clicking the phone, now I'm talking as me, I personally think that we should all just get on the same page with funny stats that are like industry standards and weird, like per 75, per 100. Let's just do per 69. I've said it before on the podcast. We just need one website that taps into the NBA's API, does a little bit of conversion, and then boom, we have our own proprietary statistics that are a little bit funny. And
we create a shoot-around neural network.
That's what I'm saying.
Using like
exactly
Python coding.
So can I talk? I
Go
was
ahead.
the one that was being referred to.
Go ahead.
This is what happens when you've heard annoying people on the internet yell at you constantly for tiny, minute bullshit like that for almost a decade now. So, like, the reason I have those things where, like, every time I bring up this concept, I'm going to say this line because I know some motherfucker is going to bitch about it in the comments if I do not. So,
Jacob,
no, and then they drive your engagement. Oh, no, fuck.
yeah. I
okay,
recognize
actually,
that. Yeah.
negative engagement. This is stupid.
No, go with it.
So if you keep up to date with what the YouTube algorithm is based on nowadays, negative engagement can actually hurt your overall engagement. It's not the same as it used to be where like, oh, you left a bad comment, doesn't matter, still watched. YouTube's analyzing like consumer sentiment with the comment. So if you're getting a bunch of comments being like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why are you using per 36 minute stats, you absolute moron? You are the dumbest person I've ever seen in my life. YouTube's going to see that and be like, man, this video was made by a real moron, and they'll stop recommending it.
This video is making our commenters angry. We want them to be happy.
Per 36,
Jacob,
I think...
I'm going to defend you because I get the same thing all the time, and it makes me so mad because people are like, the thing that really gets me is on-off numbers, because right now I'm like, I'm not going to use on-off numbers if there's only like a 75 possession sample size, but if there's like 500 possessions and I have no choice but to make content to, put food on the table, like 2 weeks into the season when we have smaller sample sizes, I don't need to tell you that, guys, just a heads up, these are small sample sizes. I'm going to hold your hand as we walk through this because you're so stupid.
Yeah.
Take this with a grain of salt because you can't think for yourself. It's like, I told you what the sample size is. I told you what the numbers are. If you think that's actually valuable information, cool. If you don't, then move on with your life. But it drives me nuts when people are like, well, actually, you shouldn't be using on-off data until there's at least a 1,500 possession sample size. And I'm just like, shut up. I don't need to tell you this every time I use an on-off stat that's under 1,500 possessions. It drives me insane.
Some free game to avoid this disposition that you guys are in with your comment section. Your analysis can very much be, this guy fucking goes out there, he just does a bunch of stuff and it is awesome, and they win some games. Can't really argue with that. It's like that's what Rudy would do, it's what I do, and it works.
That's why the number of stats I've used in my videos over the years has dwindled quite a bit, because people can't argue with film.
For sure. And I'm so against it. I think true shooting percentage is the most bullshit made up stat in the world. I hate true shooting percentage more than anything in the world.
I support this, but I also it's not in the same way at all. My means to your ends are completely different, but we're at the same finish line.
I think what we all ultimately want is like there's a revolution against like all-in-one metrics. It seems like people don't want the all-in-one metrics, EPM, Raptor, LeBron, Darko, like
Vorp.
Everyone hates that. Yeah. And true shooting percentage is like, Vorp is awful. Different discussion. True shooting percentage is like kind of an all-in-one stat. It's a scoring efficiency stat. I'm a firm believer that the only stats that matter is like tracking data for like specific events on a basketball court. So like play type data, like how much did you score as the pick and roll ball handler when driving to your left and the defense goes under the screen? Like points per possession on those play types, that's a valuable stat. Like what did you shoot from the field on those opportunities? And true shooting percentage when paired with that play type data, because if you like on Synergy, you can get true shooting percentage for when a player drives left as the pick and roll ball handler and the defense goes under. Like you can get that specific with it. True shooting percentage is valuable because you already have the context of the play type in that specific instance. But true shooting percentage overall, one of the big criticisms with true shooting percentage is that it really helps guys who shoot a ton of free throws. And I don't necessarily think that's a problem, because that's kind of the point of true shooting percentage, is to account for guys who take a lot of free throws, because it's supposed to be it's supposed to be how efficient you are on scoring opportunities. It's not just about like, do you put ball in hoop when you shoot it? It's about like your scoring value. So
it also very much like it splits the difference between like a paint player and a perimeter player. Like, if you go 4 for 10 from the field and you hit 4 3-pointers, you've scored 12 points, but you're shooting 40%. If you go 5 for 10 and you hit exclusively 2-pointers, you score 10 points, but you shoot 50%. The true shooting percentage will indicate that the 4 out of 10 performance is the more efficient one because you generated more points on less shots. That is what efficiency is. How are you generating as many points as possible on the least amount of shots as possible, the least amount of free throw attempts as possible? It is not complicated. It's barely even an advanced stat, to be honest with you. It's a pretty basic calculation of points and field goal attempts and free throw attempts. It's definitely real. I'll tell you that much.
What are you calling me, a chimp? Because here's the thing. I said I didn't like it. Not a single motherfucker asked me why I didn't like it. Okay. You guys just got all mad at me and were like, you're a fucking chimp.
I believe I have heard you say it before, but by all means, expound.
No, you guys made me feel bad. I want to talk about a different team now.
Okay.
I want to hear your thoughts on true shooting percentage.
Yeah,
we can talk about it later.
I want to talk about it now.
Yeah, I just think it's dumb. That's it. I don't have a reason. I just think it's dumb. That's it.
We need to go full baseball and just have like a fuck ton of metrics.
Why is it dumb?
I don't have one. I wish I could. I wish I had a joke or something in the chamber for you. I don't. I just think it's dumb.
I don't disagree that true shooting percentage has problems, but my whole thing is the alternative to true shooting percentage. There's not really anything better until you start getting into tracking data for like filtering down to play type and specific play context. So if you don't want to use true shooting, it's like, oh, well, we could use effective field goal percentage, but that doesn't factor in free throw shooting. You could use field goal percentage, but that's devoid of context. It doesn't factor in volume from inside the arc, outside the arc, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I'm like, true shooting percentage, it may have problems, but there's not really anything better until you start to get down into more
easily the best choice. It's easily the best efficiency metric.
You know what, Alex, the way that you just phrased that, I think is where this circles around to the same goddamn conversation we have every single week, which is that it comes down to, it's a reflection of the way that we consume it, right? I don't care about the context. It can be devoid of that. I will look at a box score after a game I didn't watch and I'll go, damn, that looks like he had an awesome game. Or, oh man, it looks like he had a bad game. And then once you get into like the quantifications of a player's value and stuff like that, like I'll go to Basketball Reference and I'll like look at stuff. But again, that's just, I don't care.
Well, why?
You know what? That's all that it is. I don't care.
Why is that any different than like other, like, do you not care literally at all about efficiency? If you're just like, if you got 30, 10, and 10, that's a great game. Even if you shot 45 shots.
If it's not on my team, then no, I don't care. If it's on my team, then I'll have something to say.
I think it's important, at least for assessing the quality of a performance.
I don't care about that because the way that we talk about the game on our respective shows is fundamentally different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'll go out there and I'll be like, this guy put up 45 fucking shots and you got 30. That's the funniest shit in the world.
Right.
You two will spend 17 minutes dissecting why that happened. You'll do a film breakdown, which is what you've been doing lately, and you'll talk about how this guy set a backside screen and he had an open look here, but he passed out of it. And I'm just going to be like, he looked like he was fucking terrible, but he had 30. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what we talked about last week. Rudy wants to watch a supercut of a guy putting a ball on a string and doing some voodoo shit, dark magic shit with the ball. You can cut out when he actually shoots the ball. We just want to be entertained because that's the way that I view it. It's something that I'm doing in my leisure time. I just happen to also talk about it into a microphone. That's it. So I don't care about how we got there. I just care that we did.
All right. Let's get somewhere else. We have talked about 2 Western Conference teams at this point. So
no, we've talked about 4. We've got the Rockets, all the top teams, every team that has broken the seal on double-figure wins this season has been discussed on this podcast.
Briefly.
So I don't know if we want to just extend this conversation in a limited way, or if we want to try to rapid fire get through the other 11 teams in the West in some capacity or another. Last week we didn't talk about the Magic at all. Got a comment about that. Sorry, guys. This week we probably are still going to leave out some teams, unless we, by design, put it off until next week to talk about the middle of the road in the Western Conference. We can just keep running this segment because, frankly, I'm rocking with it. You know, I'm having fun.
I have 2 teams that I want to bring up, and the first one we can do until Alex comes back, because I trust that Jacob will be able to give us a little something on this. The other team that a week ago I was like, it was the Warriors that I wanted to talk about, and then also the Nuggets. I was like, oh wait, so we just kind of we were very over dramatic about them getting lapped in terms of their construction, like the construction of their roster. what are they like as of this taping? I think they're like 8-5 or something. Like they've been fine and they've been survivable. Why? Why were we wrong about this? Did we just overreact?
I think it's mostly an overreaction because the supporting cast was really not living up to even their standard from the previous season, much less the growth standard they need to be held to in order to continue being serious contenders. But then the Nuggets kind of warmed up a little bit, and meanwhile, Jokic is just like having a career year, just doing a lot more on offense, really backpacking them. As of yesterday, the 3 top box scores overall from a game from any player this season, 3 of the top 6 are from Jokic. Like he's just routinely going the fuck off in like extraordinary ways. And that is all it takes when you're as good as him. But he might be one of the only players that's in that category of good enough to carry a adept supporting cast to basically the highest levels of success in the regular season. Because you see the Bucks, a guy like Giannis, probably the next best player in the NBA. He's sure not carrying his team to being more than good enough in a much weaker conference. You look at Luka, same story. The Mavs have been underwhelming, and he has a much better supporting cast. And honestly, maybe Giannis does too. It's a complicated situation overall. Jokic is just so good that he can carry a team to being a legitimate contender as long as the pieces around him aren't just absolutely crumbling.
I had a take that I was like trying to figure out who the next guy from Denver that leaves for the same amount of money that Denver offered him is going to be. Because a couple years ago it was Jeremy Grant. He gets 3 for $60 from Detroit. Denver offered him the same contract. He was like, no, the reasons that went into it, we don't need to get into that. But he still chose Detroit. And then it just happened with KCP. He went to Orlando. But there was one in between. Who is it that I'm forgetting? It's a different Bruce Brown? Is it Bruce Brown that I'm thinking of? Yeah, Bruce Brown. The player that I ended up settling on a couple months ago when I was doing this mental exercise was Peyton Watson. How's that one looking? Has Peyton Watson been good?
I think he's locked up for a decent contract term, and it's like
he's still on a rookie scale.
Well, then it wouldn't be that much longer.
This is year 3, right?
Yeah, but they have his rights, so
I mean, he's shooting 37% from outside, which you want to see. And his defense has been good. He actually had a lot of good moments stepping up in the absence of Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, I'm completely tripping. I think he's on the last. Yeah, he's still on his rookie deal. So this year is a team option. Obviously, he's fucking accepted it. And then next year is a $4.3 million team option. So even if they say no, they could still extend him for longer after that. They have control over him for several years. So just a little bit too young for that trajectory because those guys you mentioned were all veterans seeking their 3rd contract, I think. So it's got to be one of those guys. Let's see. I don't think Denver really has a lot of guys who are in that phase of their career outside of Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah. Well, didn't he have a quote recently? Did I get Ballsack Sports where he was like, if it doesn't happen for us this year, we're probably going to break up the band? Was that Michael Porter Jr.? Did that happen?
No, I think I'm pretty sure he actually said that.
He did say
Something
that.
like that.
Okay.
Sounds like it's Michael Porter Jr.
I don't think he sounded so definitive, but he was like, I don't think any of our jobs are safe.
Yeah.
Type beat.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
he's
it was
locked
like
up until 2027, by the way.
I think it was like a musing on the nature of the NBA of like, if you don't get it done, they're going to break up the band.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I like the use of musing in that context. It really worked. Good job.
Thanks.
Nick, last week you had to congratulate yourself on a good topic to bring up, encouraging that triple-double discussion, and I do want to apologize to you for that. We should have been the ones to tell you good job, buddy. I'm sorry you had to tell yourself.
Russell Westbrook just got his 200th triple-double, too.
On the Grizzlies. On the fucking Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Suck it, Rudy.
That same night that we recorded, LeBron said, "Oh, Rudy, you want a Josh Hart special? I'll give you the old LeBron James, fuck you, triple-double. We're going to win 6 games straight and be one of the best team in the West type games."
Hey, I got an email about this. Is it true that he hit the silencer? Did I miss that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He hit the silencer.
Oh, fuck me. You would think that my silencer senses would start tingling. They did not. I did not see that, and I did not hear about it until it was too late.
You're getting older, man. Not as sharp as you used to be.
So, another team that I wanted, unless somebody else had something on the Nuggets, I'll leave that open. Or do you want me to move on?
No.
Cool.
Peyton Watson is on. Oh,
no, go ahead.
Peyton Watson is on pace to so last year I think he hit something like 40 catch and shoot threes the entire season. And I think this year he's on pace to make like over 100. So good for him. That's it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring this team up and you're going to be like, why? Well, hold on and stay with me. I want to talk about the Blazers for a second because a hilarious thing of the year candidate has officially reared its head. So it's like a week ago at this point, the Blazers get smacked in the worst way by a Ja Morant-less Memphis Grizzlies team. And Chauncey Billups goes up to the podium and he's like, and I'm going to be crass for a second. We get some comments about, oh, Nick swears too much, blah, blah. This is what Chauncey Billups said. All right. This is what the motherfucker said. He was like, this team is motherfucking soft as shit. These are some soft ass motherfuckers. He was like, if you can go to sleep at night after this loss, you're a fucking loser. Like, it was bizarre. Like, Chauncey went full mask off. He's like, these kids are fucking losers. I hate this team. And then, like, the next night, they go out and they kill Minnesota. And that's actually kind of cool that, like, he lit a fire under them and was like, you guys should be embarrassed that you guys stink this bad. They lost by, like, 80 to Memphis. And then they go out and beat, like, an actual team. Now, I don't know if anybody was hurt from Minnesota in that game. It doesn't matter because even if they were missing one guy, the talent disparity is such that, you know what I mean? So I just want to give props to Portland and to Chauncey Billups for saying something hilarious at the podium, being right, by the way, and then his team actually responding positively. Is that positive negative reinforcement, or is that just negative reinforcement? Being like,
positive
just,
outcome,
losers?
negative reinforcement.
It's just negative.
It's a motivational
Yeah.
tool.
Boom. There it is. Shout out to Chauncey Billups. Shout out to Mr. Big Shot.
Yeah, Portland went on to beat Minnesota again the next day. It was a back-to-back series, and then they went on to beat the Hawks. So that's three straight wins for Portland, and suddenly they are 6-8, still 13th in the Western Conference. But the whole middle of the pack in the West is a very competitive race right now.
You know what really pisses me off?
What grinds your gears?
I posted this Anthony Edwards video, and talking about Anthony Edwards is evolved and now he's a 3-point shooter, blah, blah, blah. Look at how cool this is. He's historically blah, blah, blah. And dog, that Portland game, I turned it on. I had posted the video. It was either that day or the day before. Bro, Delano Banton makes like 6 threes in the first half. I'm like, okay, cool. This video is going to tank. Video tanked. And I mean, also, like, from a more of just like a fan perspective, like, you guys know I like the Timberwolves. So I watched that happen. They get the crap kicked out of them by the Portland Trailblazers shooting 50% from 3. And then I do it all over again the next night and watch them beat the Timberwolves again. So that was fun. The Trailblazers are, from my perspective, it's not fun. But for everyone who is doing the whole, like, guys, look, Portland, they're not going to be good, but they're going to be fun. Everyone came into the season doing that about the Trailblazers. Those 2 games, that's your victory lap. Take it now. They'll still probably be fine. But, like, yeah, they're a lower middle-class team in the NBA right now, but they got spunk.
Alex, you said Delano Banton.
Yes.
Rudy, let's do an impromptu segment called Fact or Fiction. Okay? Is Delano Banton a real fucking guy in the NBA? I'm going to say fiction.
That was my intuition as well, but I am cheating looking at an app right now. He is
Who
real.
does he play for?
And he averages 10 points a game for the Portland Trailblazers.
Wow. Okay.
He got 23 points against the Hawks.
What's funny?
Wow.
I would think that Banton would be the kind of player that would be up both of your guys' alleys.
He's
Like,
plays for Portland. I don't.
Yeah,
I,
that's one of the most off-the-radar teams from
They
the
are
West.
just he played for teams. I think he played for the Raptors before this, but whatever.
he's been in the league before this year.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
He's been in the league for like 5.
But
4
he's
years.
like he's like a 6'7" point guard who sometimes can shoot and sometimes can't. So
No. He has never been able to shoot. Let's be very clear. He has never been able to shoot.
I mean, is he shooting all right
True
now?
shooting percentage right now, as much as you guys hate it, 58.7%. Apparently,
He's shooting
156
44% from three so far this year. Obviously,
Jacob,
that's a much better
prior to
stat.
It's a
this year,
small
he was
sample
sub
size.
30. He was a sub 30%.
Right.
The numbers,
is
Mason.
not
What do
a
they
shooter.
mean?
But
You
no,
know-
like good defender, interesting player.
He's a good defender.
Rudy, we talk about Portland just being like Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, Donovan Clingan. Like I know
Shaden
some
Sharp
of the guys.
popping the fuck off.
Shaden Sharp,
Anthony
20,
Simons has been out during the
Anthony
streak, by the
Simons.
way.
Yep. Denny
Shaden
Offie is
Sharp,
there now.
27 points per game in his last three.
Really? So I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want to stay on this though. So we talk about that being a team. Who the fuck's on that team? Rudy, I say this with all due respect. I've been chewing on this one for like 2 weeks. I've just been like, how do I bring this up without it like being really forced? We're talking about this now. Dog, that's Memphis. I'm looking at I look at the roster. Santi Aldama,
Leading
fuck is
scorer
that?
in our loss last night.
I
or the
learned
night
who
before, whenever
Jalen
the fuck
Wells
that
was. I learned who Jalen Wells was a week ago. Turns out people really like him. Was watching
Santi
King of the Fourth.
Aldama's been on the Timberwolves.
He's the
or
only
on
Spaniard in the
Grizzlies for
NBA.
like 4 years, hasn't he?
Doesn't matter to
Yeah,
me.
he's been there a minute. Yeah.
The Grizzlies also had 100 guys on their team last year. Jalen Wells. I only learned who Jalen Wells was because of you guys like a week ago, and then I was watching a King of the Fourth Quarter video like 2 days ago. He's like, Jalen Wells playing really well. I was like, all right, Kenny, I'll take it. We're for Jay Huff, not a real guy. Jake Laravia, not a real guy. Zach Edey, fact, but also fiction. You know what I mean? I know who that is. I'm very acutely aware of who that is, but absolutely not. Yuki Kawamura, I believe, has to be the guy who they redid the Muggsy Bogues picture with, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Colin is a two-way guy that doesn't count. Vince Williams Jr. No, I know Vince Williams Jr. And then Cam Spencer,
Absolutely
another
counts.
two-way guy.
What's happening right now with our
It's just a lot of guys on the team that I don't know. It's a bizarre roster that the Grizzlies have.
Let me chime in real quick on that team. The thing is, almost every player that you named, good as shit. Like,
Really?
actually, rotational player. Like Scottie Pippen Jr. is arguably like making a sixth man of the year case.
Well, I didn't say him because I know him.
Jay Huff is Alex really frowned at that. I mean, he's definitely not a top 3 candidate, but he's been one of the better bench guards in the entire league.
Yeah, for sure.
Jay Huff.
We just don't need to say things that aren't true.
I mean, as of right now, there's like 18 sixth man of the year candidates because there's a bunch of fucking random variables. It'll thin itself out over time.
He's a great bench player. I agree.
Yes.
He had a triple-double, didn't he? The other day?
Yes.
Maybe.
And then everyone
Yeah.
in the media lied
Yeah,
because they
that's true,
assumed that it was the first father-son triple-double in NBA history. But they're like, no. Like I've seen lots of people come out of the weeds on Twitter and be like, that's just like factually wrong. There's multiple times this happened.
Who was
so-
another one?
samples?
Do you remember any of them?
No, it was like someone who played a long ass time ago, and then some
okay.
fucking guy who played 10 years ago that I don't fucking
That
know.
is how that would work.
Right. It's just like, and they also don't share the name that Scottie Pippen Sr. and Jr. do. So
Yeah.
they're the first that shared a name.
Yeah, I suppose. Anyways, Jay Huff, excellent, stretch big, like loves reverse dunks. But he's like I'm telling you, like Memphis is like 12 players deep if everybody's healthy.
Sounds like it.
Like Jalen Wells is like a genuine bucket.
And a really good defender, too.
And like Gigi and Vince Williams, neither of them have even played yet. I don't know if Vince might be
Bugs
back.
played.
Okay, well, they have not been in the rotation much. Like Brandon Clark is essentially like the 4th string center on this team right now. Like, what the fuck is that?
Is Taylor Jenkins still a coach?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I guess
Despite
I'm just
Memphis
disillusioned
Grizzlies
by...
fans.
Right. Okay.
They wanna
If you're on
fire him
Grizzlies
every
Twitter,
week.
they're like, oh man, this guy prepares his minutes and sticks to his predetermined lineups and doesn't adjust during the game. It's like, okay, well, I mean, that's definitely like a top-down thing. That's not 100% at his discretion. I guarantee that Zach Kleiman is like, hey, make sure the rotation looks a little bit like this. You know, I want to get good data, yada yada.
I just want to point out with Memphis, because you made this point with how like deep their bench is, and what's also great is so many of those dudes are on like 2-3 year long contracts for no money. Memphis is so hurt all the time that they were like, fuck it, we're just going to be good all the way down to our 13th man. So if we just have 4 different players out, we can still put an NBA roster out there. And like, Ja Morant has been out, and they're still doing all right.
I think what this episode has taught me is we are going to need to institute a brand new segment at some point this season called Explain It to Nick. Because between true shooting and between conceptually the Memphis Grizzlies, there is some in the Draymond Green thing, by the way. The other thing was the Draymond thing. I guess there's just a lot of stuff that, again, is a reflection of how we consume it. And I think that would help me out a lot. What's Taylor Jenkins' beard situation like right now?
I think it's
got
full.
one?
Last I checked,
Pretty
it's full.
robust.
Yeah.
Good coach then.
Yeah, no, we have this really good assistant coach who basically like flying up the charts in Europe ever since he retired as a player on the coaching carousel, if you will. And he went from having like a championship head coach season in EuroLeague or Eurobasket, whatever the fuck, Paris, and became the effectively offensive coordinator for Memphis. And you could see it. We're running a lot more motion in our offense. Ja Morant goes down, and our offense doesn't instantly go from like top 10 to bottom 10. It's actually a pretty good year for Memphis, despite continued poor injury luck. So I'm excited. I hope that Zach Edey gets healthy pretty soon, because I'm not really excited to see how we do with a lot of J-Huff and Brandon Clark as like our primary five. J-Huff is good as like a wing offensive player, but he's not exactly a fantastic rim protector, and is definitely going to get beat off the dribble on the perimeter every chance that the defense can get. He can be hunted even more easily than Zach Edey. So,
what is Zach Edey's injury?
Let me fucking check before I start talking out my ass, because I don't even know if it's upper body or lower body right now.
Ankle injury. That's
Ankle injury.
I'm not. I'm guessing. I'm putting my money on.
Oh, okay. I was about to.
I just wanted to stake my flag before you said what it was.
Right.
Minus 150 that it's an ankle injury.
Dude, yeah, ankle injury, left ankle sprain. You're on the fucking money, bro.
Wow.
Also, Zach Edey, best 3-point shooter in the NBA, might I add. Yeah, he is currently shooting.
You're a shameless motherfucker. You know
second
that.
in the league in 3-point percentage. He's
You
missed
are
like
really
2
shameless.
threes all season, bro. Shooting
Ankleless
60%.
Shrek. I saw a YouTube short.
That's
of
better.
somebody.
Shrek fit Zach Edey.
Yeah, it came back. I came back around on it.
Yeah.
I saw a YouTube short that somebody tried. It's like weird. Sometimes you watch propaganda happen in real time and you're able to clock it. It's like, wow, someone is trying to condition me right now. And then you reject it. Or you're like, yeah, I got time. And but I saw one that was pregame Marcus Smart coaching up Zach Edey in the post. And Marcus Smart was like, use your size. And he was teaching him like a fucking hip drop, basically. And then it's using like funk, like Alpha Dog, like Andrew Tate music, right?
Yeah.
And then it transitions to in the game. Zach Edey's in the same spot in the low post. He doesn't even do the same fucking move. He just like does a hook shot. He does like a push shot. And everybody in the comments is like, wow, like leadership goes such a... I'm like, he didn't even do the same fucking move. He didn't even listen to Marcus Smart.
You
He's
play
stupid.
that alpha male music over anything.
Yeah.
And then people will eat that shit up. It doesn't matter how stupid it is.
You talk about being conditioned.
Just fucking... The whole Manosphere like YouTube short playlist is unfortunately very infectious.
Every time that song plays, you get a testosterone boost.